I'm going to talk a little bit about technology, but beyond technology. And my friend from KT has delivered a wonderful speech regarding the 5G applications. But here, I'm more looking at the infrastructure side. So I'll start a story a little bit irrelevant of 5G. And as you know, 3 days ago, there's a super typhoon called Mangkhut hit South China, including Hong Kong and Shenzhen, severely. And as you can see, the strength level up to 14. And the wind speed is very fast. It's 41 meters per second. That's the damage caused. And what that to do with 5G. So from this chart, you can see before this super typhoon, and this is quite a nice, typical street in Shenzhen downtown. And by the way, in the right-hand side of the chart, this is the 5G, typical 5G deployment we had with China Telecom in the city. And what is happening afterward? So here you can see, so actually the typhoon transformed our city into a jungle. And people may joking that that would be a dinosaur coming out of the jungle. But wait a moment, and what's happened to our 5G site? So as you can see, the 5G site stands still after the super typhoon. So I just use this, it's not completely a joke, it's just about the 5G deployment. I have to think about all aspects for the 5G deployment. It's not only about the megabps or gigabits, etc., but it's actually about the infrastructure as well. So I'll start my discovery about the 5G from the global view. So as you know, 5G is heating up globally, and has been listed in the political agenda since years ago. And as you can see from this chart, primarily in the industry, the operators are targeting 2020 as a primary timeline to commercially launch 5G. But that was some pioneers like Korea, for instance. The first pre-commercial deployment of the 5G has happened early this year in the Winter Olympic. And if you look at Europe, I have a detailed chart next to discuss Europe's situation. And the European Union has paid tremendous attention on the 5G. And in China, as you know, that China has been discussing the provincial spectrum, and that will be spectrum allocation happening very soon, with each operator have more than 100 megabps for the C-band. And if we look at America, as you know, that America is going to launch the 5G very soon with the first pioneer, which is the Verizon Wireless, which accept the registration of interest by 13th of September. By 1st of October, there will be the first commercial application of FWA in a Verizon network. And if you look at the Middle East area, and that's a lot of operators like Saudi Telecom and also the Etisalat and Ooredoo in Qatar, they are rushing for the 5G commercial application in the area. Okay. Next is about the European Union. What is happening in European Union? European Union has spent a lot of time. They have a concrete plan for the next decade of a 5G deployment, starting the early R&D research back to 2013. And that was a plan for the spectrum auction in 2016. And lately, in this year, they are planning the association between the 5G into the Industry 4.0. And particularly in 2020, they are going to have each country, at least one city, to have the 5G commercial deployed and launched. And eventually, European Union is looking at to bridge the opportunity of the 5G into the Industry 4.0, as well as the gigabit society. I give the spotlight to two countries. One is about Italy. Italy was the first in the European Union to have the government initiative So late last year, March of last year, Italy actually announced a government program which invites operators to join the 5G trial program. So they'll provide the C-band for free for 4 years, and as well as cooperate with the industries, like universities and the different institutions and also the industry players. They're actually not tired about the 5G technology. They care a lot about how the 5G will penetrate the whole society, especially through different vertical industry. And that is what is happening in Italy. And Italy actually picked up 5 cities, include a big city like Milan. So each city will pick up 1 operator for the trial, which is a government initiative. And in Spain, there was a national plan for 5G across 2018 to 2020. The spectrum has been released early this year for the C-band. And also the commercial launch is targeted in 2020. And some operators like Vodafone in Spain, they have the pre-commercial launch back to June this year. And just very recent message, it was just yesterday, and Italy has the spectrum auction for the 700 meg and also the C-band. So I believe that today we are going to see the result of the Italy auction. Next is about the spectrum. So I understand the 5G has a lot of ingredients, but in a nutshell, the spectrum is the core. And from this chart, you can see that everybody knows that 3.5, or the C-band, is going to be the primary spectrum for the roaming globally. But indeed, there are some countries, the spectrum of the C-band is occupied by the current 4G service or some satellite services. In that case, 2.6 could be the right candidate. Especially the discussion of 2.6 is happening in the States and also in China. As you know, China is going to have the C-band allocated for 2 operators, and the 2.6 probably up to 160 meg BPS allocated for 1 operator, which we are expecting that to be announced in the next couple of months. And apart from the 3.5 and 2.6, and we believe also the millimeter wave is taking place in some of the country, for instance, in the States and also in Korea. So I believe that spectrum is more or less ready for each country in each year prospectively. And here is about the devices. So I believe that the whole industry is prepared for the 5G launching. Particularly from Huawei side, as you know, in the Mobile World Congress early this year, we've announced the first industry 5G devices, which is the CPE. So this is commercially available this year. And in the middle of next year, we'll have the much small size MiFi devices by the end of next year. And we are expecting our smartphone 5G will be available in the second half of the year. And from the bottom half of the chart, we can see the industry. From the chipset vendor, include Huawei, HiSilicon, and also Qualcomm, Samsung, and Intel. So that's a lot of progress made in this area. And as far as we know that the chipset vendor like Qualcomm is going to have the chipset available by the end of this year. We're expecting in the early of next year, there will be some limited 5G handset available in the market. Okay, and next is about the trials. So we have to say that early of this year, in February, Huawei completed the interoperability and the development test with Qualcomm. The Qualcomm provided the test UE, and Huawei provided the commercial networks. So that has been a successful test. And in July of this year, China Mobile, Huawei, and also Intel have completed the interoperability test for entrance system, which include not only the network infrastructure, but also the application like the 4K video stream, multiple 4K video stream, etc. Here with this chart, I'm talking about the IMT 2020 initiative jointly by Ministry of Science and Technology and Ministry of Industry and Information Technology in China. This trial has been conducted in 3 phases. And the first phase was in 2016, which is highly focused on the key technology of 5G network. And the second phase was in last year, which is the 5G network solutions end-to-end. And this year, this is the last phase of the test. And it's the interoperability in between vendors, from the core network to the radio and to the devices, etc. So I have to say that Huawei is in a leading position in the first phase and second phase, which has been finished. And in this year, we also have a good progress for the last phase of the test. So as you can see, we have the highest speed. With the C-band, we can achieve 28 gigabits, and the low latency as low as less than 1 millisecond, which is the test result in the IMT 2020. And next is I'm going to talk a little bit about the 2 key technology, which is the uplink downlink decoupling. So when we planning a few years ago, 3 years ago, when the whole industry planning the 5G, which spectrum is going to be used. So at the time, the available spectrum is mainly the high spectrum band, like the C-band. But the point is how we match the C-band, 3.5 gigabps, with the coverage of the LTE, especially 1.8 gigahertz. So the technology is the MIMO. But the MIMO will provide the coverage of the downlink as much as the LTE 1.8 gigahertz. But what about the uplink? So actually, the uplink we have facing a challenge. But with this uplink and downlink decoupling, for instance, this is the test we have completed in China in our campus. So the user will move from the cell center towards the cell edge. To a certain point of time, so the speed will drop dramatically. If we zoom into this particular point, so if the speed dropped less than 5 megabps, so it will be a switch point. So switch the network, the uplink to the 1.8 gigahertz coverage of the LTE. So in this way, we're actually matching the 3.5 C-band coverage with the LTE. So the tremendous impact is the operator is not necessary to plan an additional site for 5G deployment. It primarily can collocate with the LTE. So the next chart is about MIMO, the speed we can achieve with the MIMO technology. So this is a test we have completed in the field network in Shenzhen. So as you can see, that's a drive test. We can achieve 1 gigabps continuously across the test. So next is about what 5G can bring us. We call the 5G bring the Cloud X. What mean the Cloud X? The Cloud X actually is about a lot. The X represent a lot, especially the Cloud PC. The Cloud PC is in the industry for a while, but this time with the 5G as the opportunity, we could use our mobile phone as the devices to connecting with the bandwidth to the wide bandwidth to the cloud. So in this way, we can have our personal computer everywhere. So which makes the first business case for a mobile operator. And another case in point is the smart robot. According to the statistics, it would be 12% of a family will have the smart robot at home by 2025. But if the robot is smart enough, it will be very heavy and big. But with the cloud technology, we can connect in the robot, probably with the 5G technology, into the cloud. All the intelligence will stay with the cloud. So we can have a very slim robot in front of us. So next is about the application for the cloud VR. So cloud VR, the VR actually is not a new concept. As you know, we have the mobile VR that's primarily insert the handphone into the cardboard. So that one, we have the mobility, full mobility, but the less experience due to the computing ability of the mobile phone. But that was also the alternative, which is the PC VR. But the PC VR do have the immersive experience much better than the mobile VR. But the problem is it has to use a cable connecting to the high-performance server in the room. So it's actually a good or bad. I mean, it's not really convenient. You don't have the full mobility. And with the cloud VR, we have all the computing and rendering in the cloud. And we're using the 5G to connecting the VR, the very slim light VR, the headset. And we can have the full mobility and the best experience everywhere. So that's the mobile VR. And what that connecting to 5G. So according to the research, so if we want to have a good experience of video VR, so we need 100 megabps minimum for the 8K VR. So the 100 megabps everywhere is actually the typical ability of 5G, but which is not available in the 4G. Okay, next is about the use case about FMC. So actually, Huawei is the pioneer to introduce the 4G technology into the home broadband market. We call it WTTX, wireless to everything. So we have successfully delivered that in the last 4 years. And this year, we believe that the wireless connected home will succeed the fiber. So with the 5G as the advanced technology, so we believe that the 5G will introduce the home broadband to more family scenarios. And also that is smart home applications, which is primarily the opportunity for the fiber to the home operators at this point of time. Due to the speed limitation, the copper and the cable operators are not able to doing this kind of applications for the smart home. But with the 5G as the enabler, we believe that the 5G can sustain the smart home applications. Lastly, as you know, that back to 2016, November, we launched our X Lab. So in Tokyo, in a mobile broadband forum in 2016. So this lab is actually our arm to extend our network ability into different industries and different applications, such as the connected cars and the wireless factory and digital sky applications through the service drone, etc. So we welcome our partners, our customers to join this X Lab to explore the opportunity of 5G, not only from network infrastructure side. And lastly, Huawei is very serious, have a serious commitment in the 5G deployment. And we started our R&D back to 2009 for the end-to-end 5G system. And we are going to have the end-to-end non-standalone 5G network and end-to-end system available by the end of this month. So which include the network, the core transmission, and also the radio, and also the chipset, etc. And a half year later, by March of next year, we are going to have the standalone 5G end-to-end system available to the market. And here is a bit about our market progress globally. And as of today, we have a lot of interest expressed from our partners globally. So that was about 30 trials happening globally, and also about 50 MOUs signed between Huawei and our partners. And as of today, that's 16 commercial contracts has been signed, and we are actually deliver the 5G commercial network for operators across the globe. At least a lot of them, like those in China, and like Vodafone, T-Mobile in Europe, and Telecom Italy, and Telefonica, etc. And also that's a lot of Middle East operators, which is very interested, and they are rushed for the #1 for the 5G launch in the area. So lastly, I believe 4G have delivered a lot in the last decade for our industry. And we believe that 4G will continue to deliver its benefit in the next couple of years. But 5G actually is the platform that provide us with a lot of opportunities to explore the digital industry and digital society. So let's work together for the 5G city in the world and in Asia as well. Thanks very much for your attention.